You know exactly who I'm talking about. The kind of guy who walks into a room and commands attention effortlessly. You've seen him before at social gatherings, maybe at the bar or at a friend's party. He isn't necessarily the tallest, strongest, richest, or even the most handsome guy around, but somehow rejection seems foreign to him. Women naturally gravitate towards him, as though there's a hidden force pulling them closer. While most men experience hesitation, anxiety, and the crushing fear of rejection, this man walks through life with an almost supernatural ease. So, what's his secret? How does he manage to remain untouched by the sting of rejection that seems so common for everyone else? Let's be clear about something important first. This isn't just luck, and it's definitely not magic. What you see in this man is the product of mastering certain fundamental principles, psychological secrets that most men overlook. These principles aren't mystical or unattainable. They're grounded in human psychology, emotional intelligence, and authentic self-confidence. They're principles used by master seducers, social dynamics experts, and influential personalities throughout history. Take Casanova, for example, often remembered as one of history's greatest seducers. Casanova wasn't notably handsome, nor did he possess the exceptional wealth that many mistakenly believe necessary for attraction. Yet, he succeeded consistently, weaving his charisma into a compelling tapestry that enchanted nearly everyone he encountered. Casanova's real power lay in his understanding of the human psyche. He knew something fundamental. Attraction and desire start in the mind long before any physical interaction. If you grasp this, you're already ahead of 90% of other men. To understand this deeply, let's break down the biggest misconception first, that rejection is entirely personal. Most men perceive rejection as an attack on their identity and self-worth, which creates an unconscious fear so powerful it cripples their ability to act confidently. The man who never gets rejected, however, views rejection completely differently. He sees it simply as feedback. He doesn't take rejection personally because he knows it rarely has anything to do with who he is at his core. Instead, it usually reflects timing, compatibility, or even the other person's mood or situation. This perspective is reinforced by Robert Greene in his seminal book, The Art of Seduction. Greene explains that the seducer is not someone who fears rejection. Rather, he anticipates and embraces the complexities of human interactions. For Greene, each interaction, successful or not, is an opportunity to refine his approach. It's a numbers game, not in the sense of recklessly approaching everyone, but in strategically understanding that every interaction teaches you something crucial about human behavior, desire, and attraction. When you shift your mindset this way, rejection ceases to carry emotional weight. Now, here's another subtle yet incredibly potent principle: the concept of non-attachment. Master seducers practice this effortlessly. Non-attachment doesn't mean indifference or coldness. Rather, it implies freedom from the desperate need for validation. Most men unconsciously project desperation, hoping a woman will complete them, validate their worth, or fulfill some hidden emotional void. Women can sense this instantly. But the man who never gets rejected genuinely enjoys the moment. He has an abundance mindset, knowing there's always another opportunity, another interaction, another connection waiting. He's free from neediness, and paradoxically, this very attitude makes him profoundly attractive. Consider a practical scenario. Imagine you approach a woman at a cafe. Most men immediately enter the interaction hoping to be liked, subtly begging for acceptance. Their body language betrays nervousness, their voices reveal hesitation, and their eyes betray vulnerability. Women detect this like sharks sensing blood in water. On the contrary, the man who doesn't experience rejection approaches casually, warmly, genuinely curious about who she is, rather than desperately hoping she'll approve of him. His energy communicates confidence, ease, and genuine interest, without expectation. It's this subtle shift in intention that changes the entire dynamic. Now, let's talk about self-validation, the cornerstone of true seduction mastery. In his groundbreaking book, Models, author Mark Manson explains a profound truth. Attraction is fundamentally a byproduct of your self-perception. If you genuinely feel attractive, valuable, and desirable, you unconsciously project this energy outward. Manson emphasizes authenticity as the key. True attraction comes from vulnerability and genuine self-expression, not from pretending or posturing. This means mastering yourself, embracing your strengths, and even accepting your flaws openly and without shame. The man who never gets rejected isn't perfect, far from it, but he fully accepts who he is. This radical self-acceptance is irresistibly compelling because it radiates an authentic and rare form of confidence. And there's another secret here, a strategy practiced by some of the world's greatest seducers and even charismatic leaders. This strategy revolves around mastering emotional intelligence, specifically empathy. Contrary to what many men think, the seducer who never gets rejected isn't manipulative or cold. Rather, he's deeply attuned to the emotional needs, desires, and subtleties of the people around him. He understands what she craves emotionally and provides it in an authentic, subtle manner, creating powerful connections. Empathy here doesn't mean being overly nice or accommodating. Instead, it's about genuine curiosity and understanding. When you're deeply present, observing subtle cues, like her body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, you gain access to emotional information that most men completely overlook. Suddenly, you know exactly when to move closer, when to step back, when to speak, and when to simply listen. This kind of emotional calibration creates comfort and trust, eliminating the possibility of rejection because you're responding perfectly to her subconscious emotional needs. Finally, let's explore the power of narrative, the story you tell about yourself. Jordan Belfort, famous as the Wolf of Wall Street, talks extensively about the importance of your inner narrative. In his sales and seduction strategies, Belfort highlights that people unconsciously accept the narrative you present about yourself. If your internal narrative is one of strength, resilience, humor, and confidence, others naturally align with that perception. The man who never faces rejection has mastered his internal story. He doesn't pretend to be someone else. He crafts a compelling narrative around who he genuinely is, effortlessly convincing those around him to see his value clearly and undeniably. When you integrate all these subtle psychological principles, something remarkable happens. Your perception of rejection shifts profoundly. You no longer see it as something terrifying or painful. Instead, rejection becomes a non-issue, simply another valuable piece of feedback guiding your growth. The confidence that emerges from this shift is the key behind the enigmatic allure of men who seem immune to rejection. But we're only scratching the surface. Let's dive even deeper into specific techniques and psychological tools you can start using immediately. Strategies proven by researchers, psychologists, and legendary seducers to dramatically reduce rejection, amplify attraction, and help you embody the powerful charisma of the men who always succeed. Now imagine this scenario clearly in your mind. You're at a gathering, casually talking to several people, when you notice a woman you've never met before. Most men instantly start formulating strategies, trying to calculate the perfect line or moment to approach. They rehearse phrases mentally, second-guessing every detail. But the man who never gets rejected doesn't rely on rehearsed lines or planned strategies. Instead, he leverages spontaneity, the powerful art of being naturally and genuinely in the moment. The strength of spontaneity lies in the authenticity it projects. Women are finely tuned detectors of sincerity, and there's nothing more appealing than interacting with someone who genuinely lives and expresses himself without pretense or hidden agendas. As Robert Cialdini describes in his influential book, Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion, people are magnetically drawn to others who display genuine consistency between their words, actions, and emotions. This alignment creates trust almost instantly, bypassing the walls of skepticism that women usually maintain when approached. So, how do you cultivate this magnetic spontaneity? It begins with dropping expectations entirely. Let me explain further. Most men enter interactions burdened by expectations. They think, "She needs to like me," or "I have to be charming right now." Such internal pressure inevitably creates awkwardness or stiffness. On the contrary, the genuinely attractive man interacts from a space of genuine curiosity, openness, and playfulness, without any attachment to specific outcomes. This makes him refreshingly unpredictable and captivatingly authentic. He surprises her not by being a perfect gentleman, but by being perfectly real. Another powerful psychological dimension, rarely talked about, yet leveraged by men who never experience rejection, is the subtle use of mirroring and pacing. Renowned psychologist Milton Erickson, who revolutionized communication techniques, emphasized the subtle art of mirroring as a profound way to build rapport quickly and deeply. By subtly matching body language, pace of speech, tone, and energy levels, you create an unconscious sense of familiarity and trust. Imagine again the earlier scenario. You're talking to her, relaxed and engaged, subtly aligning your gestures with hers. She leans forward slightly. Moments later, you naturally do the same. She speaks softly, and you respond at a similar volume. These minor adjustments go unnoticed consciously, but subconsciously, they establish a connection so strong that rejection becomes almost impossible. Erickson understood that rapport is the hidden bridge between strangers, the invisible bond that can turn even a brief interaction into something profoundly memorable. Building on that, let's delve into the captivating allure of selective vulnerability. Men often mistakenly equate vulnerability with weakness, but selectively and intentionally revealing authentic aspects of yourself is an astonishingly powerful form of strength. Brené Brown, the renowned researcher on vulnerability and connection, emphasizes how carefully chosen vulnerability can evoke profound emotional responses and create lasting bonds. When you authentically share a personal story or express genuine emotions, without oversharing or dramatizing, you invite her into your world, giving her permission to do the same. Selective vulnerability isn't about confessing insecurities or past failures to seek pity. It's about confidently and subtly revealing aspects of yourself that most people hide behind facades. Perhaps you briefly share a humorous anecdote of a mistake you made that taught you a valuable life lesson, or express genuine admiration for something she shared. These subtle admissions communicate authenticity and confidence simultaneously, a powerful combination that few can resist. Women instinctively understand that a man secure enough to show genuine aspects of himself is also secure enough to handle life's challenges and emotional depths. Now let's explore another highly effective yet overlooked psychological concept: strategic silence. Most men rush conversations, terrified by brief moments of silence, filling gaps with unnecessary chatter. However, masterful communicators understand that silence, properly leveraged, is deeply seductive. It conveys comfort, confidence, and emotional maturity. The man who never gets rejected is entirely at ease with strategic pauses, allowing conversations to breathe naturally, creating space for meaningful connections. Consider this. When you're comfortable with silence, you subtly communicate a powerful message. I'm secure enough in myself and in this interaction to allow silence without anxiety. The effect is magnetic. She finds herself intrigued, wondering about your calm confidence. She becomes subtly compelled to fill the silence herself, investing more emotionally into the interaction. This investment naturally leads her to feel closer and more connected to you, reducing the likelihood of rejection dramatically. Next, let's unpack the profound power of emotional pacing. Most men misunderstand attraction as purely physical or logical, ignoring that attraction truly flourishes in the emotional realm. The man who never experiences rejection intuitively understands how to pace emotional escalation, moving smoothly from casual topics to deeper emotional territories, effortlessly guiding conversations from superficial banter into genuine intimacy. In his groundbreaking book, Never Split the Difference, former FBI negotiator Chris Voss explains how emotional pacing and calibration can turn even the most challenging negotiations into successful interactions. The same principle applies powerfully to seduction. You start conversations lightly, observing emotional responses carefully, subtly escalating the emotional depth as trust grows. You gently navigate topics, observing subtle cues she offers about her comfort level, interests, and desires, thereby skillfully leading her into deeper emotional connections without pressure or force. Another potent and underutilized technique is the power of creating positive emotional associations. Human psychology naturally links experiences with emotional states. By carefully associating yourself with positive emotions, laughter, joy, curiosity, excitement, you effectively anchor these feelings to your presence. Over time, even brief interactions create subconscious emotional attachments. Each time she thinks of you, she unconsciously recalls the positive feelings you've evoked, making rejection inconceivable. Legendary seducers, including Giacomo Casanova and more contemporary figures like Strauss, intuitively use this principle. They carefully curated their interactions to consistently evoke positive emotional states. It's less about saying perfect things and more about consistently making interactions enjoyable and emotionally rewarding. This positive emotional anchoring becomes an invisible force, subconsciously pulling her closer every time you're around. There's also an advanced psychological concept called fractionation, frequently used by master seducers. Fractionation involves carefully alternating between contrasting emotional states, light and playful moments mixed with deeper, more serious interactions. This emotional roller coaster naturally heightens emotional intensity, creating powerful subconscious bonds. Fractionation isn't manipulation. Rather, it's about authentically exploring different emotional layers, ensuring interactions never become monotonous or predictable. Imagine transitioning smoothly from playful teasing and humor to sharing something sincerely thoughtful or emotionally meaningful. This emotional contrast makes interactions unforgettable. It creates a unique emotional narrative in her mind, an experience she'll naturally crave repeating. Finally, never underestimate the power of social proof and preselection, two concepts extensively researched in evolutionary psychology. Women are instinctively attracted to men who demonstrate social value. The man who rarely experiences rejection naturally builds this social proof, effortlessly surrounding himself with diverse friendships, interests, and meaningful relationships. When she observes that you're socially respected and desirable to others, her subconscious mind automatically perceives you as more valuable, significantly reducing the likelihood of rejection. These concepts combined, strategic spontaneity, selective vulnerability, emotional pacing, positive emotional anchoring, and fractionation, represent an integrated psychological framework used by men who never seem to experience rejection. They're not inherently special or uniquely talented. They've simply mastered these powerful psychological techniques and effortlessly incorporate them into daily interactions. Now, if you're ready to take this knowledge even further, there's more to uncover. Let's explore deeper psychological insights, advanced conversational techniques, and even subtle nonverbal strategies. Tools you can immediately implement to transform how women perceive and respond to you, practically eliminating rejection from your social interactions forever. One of the most misunderstood elements behind men who never get rejected is how they craft an aura around themselves, a psychological field that speaks before they do. This aura isn't built by accident. It's designed, refined, and projected deliberately, and it has almost nothing to do with physical appearance or wealth. It's about self-command. Women respond instinctively to men who move through the world with a clear internal compass, who act with intention, and who don't apologize for their presence. This is where the concept of inner congruence becomes crucial. Inner congruence means your words, actions, and emotions are aligned. There's no hidden tension, no internal conflict. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. When a man lacks congruence, women feel it instantly. He might say he's confident, but his posture betrays doubt. He might speak boldly, but his energy feels apologetic. The man who never gets rejected doesn't need to announce his worth. He embodies it. This kind of congruence is cultivated through deep self-awareness. It's the product of a man who has faced his own insecurities, wrestled with his shadows, and emerged grounded. Carl Jung would call this individuation, a psychological process where a person integrates their unconscious into their conscious self, becoming whole. A man who has gone through this inner alchemy no longer needs approval. His sense of self-worth is intrinsic, and that kind of energy, grounded and unapologetically real, is magnetic. Let's go even deeper. Women unconsciously test men to find out if they're truly grounded or just putting on a mask. These tests are not malicious. They're biological. Evolution designed them. A woman wants to know, can this man lead? Can he protect? Is he emotionally resilient? These are unconscious filters. If you react poorly to these tests, getting defensive, needy, or insecure, you fail them. But if you stay grounded, playful, and composed, she sees something rare, a man who is emotionally sovereign. One powerful strategy to pass these tests is what we call amused mastery. This mindset is calm, playful, even slightly amused by drama or resistance. It's not arrogant or dismissive, it's just unshakable. When she tries to throw you off with a tease or a challenge, you smile, you enjoy it, you play back. That's what high-status men do. They don't react emotionally, they respond intentionally. And that makes women feel safe, intrigued, and drawn in. Let's now talk about voice, your secret psychological weapon. The way you use your voice can bypass conscious resistance and go straight to the emotional brain. Men who rarely experience rejection have mastered vocal tonality. They speak slowly, with gravity and calm presence. Their voice is never rushed or strained. They let silence work for them. They emphasize key words. They pause. They let their message land. And in doing so, they create a rhythmic, hypnotic effect that holds attention and transmits emotional authority. This vocal presence is primal. From an evolutionary standpoint, a calm, resonant voice signals dominance, safety, and leadership. It tells her nervous system, this man is in control, not just of the environment, but of himself, and that makes him irresistible. Now consider the power of embodied presence. This is different from posture or physical fitness. Embodied presence means your awareness is grounded in your body, not in your overthinking mind. You're connected to your breath. Your gaze is steady. You're fully present. You're not planning what to say or wondering how she's judging you. You're right here, right now, owning the moment. That level of presence is rare. Most men live in their heads, constantly analyzing. But when you embody presence, women feel it. It creates sexual tension without a single word. Let's also explore the use of narrative tension. This is a powerful tool seducers use unconsciously. Great storytellers build suspense. They don't reveal everything too quickly. Likewise, seductive men know how to hold something back. They reveal themselves slowly. They don't dump their entire personality or history in the first 5 minutes. They give glimpses. They let her wonder. They create an emotional cliffhanger. This subtle withholding creates space for her curiosity to grow. Most men are desperate to be known, to be validated, so they overshare, hoping it will create intimacy. But real attraction is rooted in mystery and discovery. When you leave room for her to ask, to wonder, to lean in, you create tension. And tension is the birthplace of desire. We can also talk about pacing desire. Men who never get rejected don't rush to escalate. They understand that sexual energy builds in the space between what's said and what's unsaid. They master the pause before the kiss, the glance that lasts half a second too long, the whisper instead of the shout. They play with contrast, between light and dark, soft and intense, warmth and challenge. They're not just physically attractive, they orchestrate desire like an artist. And because of that, women don't reject them, they chase them. But perhaps one of the most underrated traits is strategic detachment. This is not the same as aloofness or emotional coldness. Strategic detachment means you don't emotionally overinvest in someone too soon. You move slowly, you observe, you evaluate, you hold your own value high. Most men give too much too soon. They fall in love with a fantasy, not a real person. The men who never get rejected, they remain centered. They give affection, yes, but they never give away their power. This detachment also prevents them from chasing. They know the paradox. The more you chase, the more she withdraws. So, they never chase. They lead. They invite. And if the energy isn't reciprocated, they move on. Calmly, confidently, without resentment. That self-respect creates gravitational pull. Because when a woman sees that you don't need her, but you choose her, the dynamic changes entirely. And now, let's look at the power of lifestyle congruence. This is one of the least talked about, yet most powerful psychological tools of seduction. The man who never gets rejected lives a life that reflects the values he speaks about. He doesn't just talk about ambition. He wakes up early and builds something. He doesn't just say he's adventurous. He books trips, takes risks, meets people. He lives a compelling story. And when a woman enters his world, she doesn't just meet a man. She steps into a lifestyle that's emotionally rich, dynamic, and alive. This lifestyle congruence makes you deeply magnetic. Because you're not trying to impress her. You're inviting her into a life that already has meaning. And when a man lives with that kind of purpose, presence, and psychological grounding, rejection isn't even part of his vocabulary anymore. We're still only tapping into the deep psychology of these men. And there's more: body language hacks, subconscious projection techniques, energetic calibration methods used by elite seducers, and strategies rooted in both neuroscience and ancient philosophy that can transform your presence permanently. If you're serious about becoming the kind of man who naturally attracts without effort and never fears rejection again, keep watching, because we're about to enter the advanced levels. Let's wrap up this journey with the same strength, clarity, and intensity that defines the men we've been talking about. If you've made it this far, you already know. This isn't about gimmicks, cheesy pickup lines, or pretending to be someone you're not. The men who never get rejected aren't lucky. They're deliberate. They've trained themselves mentally, emotionally, and energetically. They've reprogrammed the way they see rejection, women, and, most importantly, themselves. That's the real secret. It's not something external you do. It's the internal shift you make that changes how the world responds to you. So now it's your turn. If you felt this hit somewhere deeper than just words, if something inside you stirred, if a part of you knows that you're capable of being that man, then I invite you to go one step further. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of your transformation. Drop a comment below. Tell me what part resonated with you the most. Share your story, your challenges, or even the breakthroughs you've had. I read every single one, and your comment might be the spark that inspires another man to level up. If you found value here, like this video and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. The more men who awaken to this truth, the more we shift the game, not just in dating, but in how we carry ourselves in the world. And if you're hungry for more depth, more techniques, more psychological strategies that go far beyond surface-level content, then make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notifications. This is only the beginning. Become the man she doesn't reject, because you've already chosen yourself.